Hey, everybody, welcome to On the Edge. I'm Rayanne Thorne-Kruger, your host. I'm really excited to welcome Kevin Robinson to the show today and to remind everybody that not only is On the Edge a live stream here on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, hopefully today it'll be on YouTube. It's also available as a podcast, thus the machinery I'm wearing now that makes me look like an airline pilot. So I want the best quality sound out there. So you can find it anywhere. Just all you have to do is Google it, or you can find it here on LinkedIn where we live stream every time. Thank you, Kevin, for joining me today. I am still celebrating, like I do all year long, Black History Month, and I really appreciate you joining me today to talk about 3/5 Magazine. It's such an honor to have you here. I'm going to give you a chance to tell us all about yourself that you can in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Tell us about yourself and 3/5 Magazine.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to this platform, Rayanne or Ray.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And just right now, it's a real important time in our country because we've seen so many things happen over the last several years. We've come out of a pandemic, and so many things have happened, and we need to find our way as a country. And we've been on the search for the last couple hundred years, and I think there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about the Esther in the Bible and says, "A woman for such a time as this." And I would believe that there is a time that we have come to and arrived where we're in one of those such a time as this moments, and we're just happy to be a part of that, being 3/5 Magazine.
I so appreciate that sentiment. I'm the type of person that cruises through the news quickly in the morning. I will go and look at my memories on Facebook. I'll do the first, scroll through my feed on Facebook and LinkedIn to try and grasp some type of good news, right? Because there's so much out there that is negative or takes away our energy, right? And I want to be a benefit to my listeners, to my viewers, to my friends, to my family, to the people that matter the most in my life. Like, each of us individually have folks like that and that we want to matter to and uplift. And so I would love for you, and you have entered that realm, by the way. I have found your feed. This is how I found you, by the information that you share on LinkedIn. And you shared something recently, and I said, please come and be on the edge with me. So I really appreciate you joining me and talking a little bit about 3/5. First thing I want to ask you is well, I know you talked about how we are as a country right now, as a world, actually, not just here in the United States. What was the impetus behind 3/5?
If I could simply put it, it's 4 words: the George Floyd lynching. That right there was one of those inflection points that this country arrived at, and it affected so many people. And I have been blogging and teaching, training about diversity for a number of years. And when that particular situation happened, I just kind of had a cathartic moment myself, thinking that I've got to do something more. And then I reached out to a few of my colleagues from around the country, and I shared with them what I'd like to do. And they said, yes, let's do this. Let's make this happen. Because in these particular inflection points we've had throughout history, so many times there was a lot of excitement around the walking out and doing marches and whatnot, and all over the country, not just in inner city areas, but in suburbs and exurbs and all over the place. People were doing marches, and it was the popular thing to do. But I realized that there needed to be a medium where people could continue this conversation after all the lights go down and the popularity fades and we go back to our lives. And so that is the essence of the impetus of 3/5 Magazine.
I have to tell you, that was an inflection point for me as well. I remember sitting on the couch news breaking in with I had an elderly woman, my bonus mom, living with me at the time that I was providing 24 hours a day care for, and she was still with it, and we watched it together and just sobbed. I could not believe what I was seeing, and that actually has been the impetus for a lot of my learning, and what I've shared with other individuals is that my unlearning.
Mhm.
And it was a moment of, in my face, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And it's not stopping. It's
Yes. Right.
building, it's growing, it's not going away, it's not getting better. It's bad. This is bad. And we need, as a people, to come together and make a difference. So thank you for sharing that. I got emotional as you were talking. I'm so glad that you kept talking, because I don't know that I would have been able to input anything more beautiful than what you did. So I want you to talk about, now I know the answer to this, but maybe we have some viewers or listeners that don't know the answer to this. I want you to talk specifically about the name of the magazine, Three Fifths.
Okay. Three fifths as as the title for the magazine, it was derived from the Three Fifths Compromise of 1787, when the nation came together for its constitutional convention in order to cater to some of the southern states and give them a buy-in to this union that we were forming. um, they decided on this three-fifths concept. And notice the word compromise. A lot of times throughout history, when when compromises are used or expressed or agreed to, those marginalized communities many times end up on the wrong end of the compromise, sadly. Um, but in this particular compromise, a lot of people think, well, yeah, that means that African Americans were three-fifths of a person, and that's not necessarily as how it went. It's a little more sinister than that when we actually look at it. And what it meant for every five voters, it took three African American voters that would be counted as three to equal two white voters. One caveat: slave populations, or the African population, African American population, weren't allowed to vote. They had no right. Their bodies were used, as many times through history, the bodies were recognized, but the intellect was not. And so that, written into our Constitution from the very beginning, designated this permanent underclass that we would be dealing with, extrapolated many times over through our history, that we even deal with today. That's why you had a George Floyd situation. It's because it started back in 1787. Now, many people say, well, slavery's gone on for a long time in 1619 and even before that, but words matter. And when those words were written into the original document of our Constitution, that weighs heavily. Words matter. And so, and through that sentiment, that's where we wanted to basically go back to the beginning and make that correction through our writings, through our articles, through what we do to bring people together to overcome that original mistake. There's an old saying that says, if you button up a shirt wrong, if the first button's wrong, the shirt's going to be, it's not going to be right. And my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, had an old saying, says, you start wrong, you end wrong. So we want to make that correction of the mistake that was made writing into the original documentation of the Constitution of the United States.
Before I go into my next thought, I want to respond to your mother-in-law's saying, right?
Uh,
And so do you think that we can correct it, or do we need to start over? Because the saying,
mhm.
if you start wrong, we clearly started wrong,
Yeah.
right? There will be people that disagree with us. There will be people that believe that, there's manifest destiny in place for what's happened in America and where we are in the US. that this is where we're supposed to be in this place and time. However, it's not that great.
Yeah,
It's not
right.
that great. And
Yes.
um, I don't even want to repeat a slogan that is used over and over again, but it's not that great. It's not ever been that great.
No.
So, do we need to cleanse ourselves of this history, or can we utilize this history much like Germany has done to rebuild and learn from each other and learn how to love each other? Because ultimately, I believe that's where we need to be. We need to be in a place where we can see another individual in our world, in our space, whether it's at church, at work, on the road, in a store, at school, wherever we are, and feel connected to that individual and feel like this is another human being like me, has a brain, has emotions, has fears, has loves, has likes, and use that connection as a way to further connect and care
Yes.
and really absolutely care. Can we do that, or what do you think?
I think we can, if being a student of history, particularly American history, what's really the salvation of America is those first words that were written in the Declaration of Independence. Though I don't ascribe so much homage to the greatness and the brilliance of those who wrote it, but words matter.
They do.
Nevertheless, no matter what their motivation was, they wrote those words. And those words said that we are endowed with certain unalienable rights, that all men, and it should be all men and women and whoever, are
Yes.
created equal and given and with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, before their error of the Three-Fifths Compromise in the Constitution, those words were written. And since then, those who have been fighting for civil rights, for justice throughout this country's history, minority populations and people of color have challenged this country time and time again through Reconstruction, through the civil rights legislation, and different modes throughout the history of this country have challenged this country to be true to its original words. And in that way, I believe that we can achieve that. And there is a fierce battle going on right now between what we can be, our potential, and what the inevitability tells us
Yeah.
that we will be. But we need to take a hold of this, of our country, take a hold of those words, those original words, and understand that there's a story in the Bible, and I love to reference scripture, how when Elisha was he was afraid for his life. He had just had a great victory, and then he was chased out by the king and the queen, and he was afraid for his life. And he says, "I'm all alone. There's no one there but me." And the Lord told him that greater are they that are with you than those that are against you. And there is, I believe, in this country a silent majority of people who are justice seekers.
I agree.
And what we need to do is not faint, not fail, not get tired or burn out, but we need to keep pressing forth. Because part of my career too, I was a professional firefighter. And so many times when you find victims in a fire, you would find them right at the threshold, right on the very way to escape, to get out.
Yeah.
And they just get lost, lose their orientation. We've got to be that north, that due north for America, and continue to point us toward a better way. Because yes, we can do better. We don't need to tear down what we built, but we need to hold ourselves, individuals, education systems, the corporate community, politicians. We need to hold ourselves accountable to those original words. And I believe that we can do it.
I love that. was raised in a very religious home and maintain a lot of the learnings and teachings and the thoughts and practices.
Mhm.
I'm not a practicing part of a practicing religion or practicing a religion now, but I feel a great love and affinity for you and for the words that you have shared. And there is a dichotomy right now of individuals that are using religion or Christianity
Yes.
to justify action that against anybody that's different, right?
Right.
Anybody that's different than, I'm just going to say it, a white Christian,
Yeah.
a white straight Christian.
Yes. Mhm.
So how do you? I find it so interesting that you are willing, because of this practice that's going on, to still bring religion into the conversation, and because it's being used so negatively, and it's become this divider in our government also. I mean, we see it in rulings, and in laws that are being created and tried to be pushed through into a law. So I know this wasn't part of our pre list of things to bullet points to talk about, but how do you feel about that? How do you feel about religion being used as a basically a scapegoat for ill will and for crimes against humanity?
Well, I go by one key preposition. It's that there's a word or a phrase that's a Latin word, which is imago Dei. And that phrase means all created in the image of God. And I hold dearly to that because whether we agree or disagree on whatever the subject is, because no two human beings are going to agree on everything. But what we can agree about is look, this is my belief system. You are made in God's image. You are the perfect creation of what God wanted you to be. And I respect the God in you. Now, we may have our disagreements, but myself, as long as I keep that in the forefront about, look, I'm going to respect, I'm going to love, I'm going to honor the God in you. And let's focus on those things that can unite us rather than those things that divide us.
Yes. Yes. Agree. Thank you for answering that kind of off the wall question. But it's been in my thoughts lately. I even commented on a post early this morning in regards to religion and government and separation of church and state. And I think it's becoming louder. It's a topic that's going to be louder. And I think many of us who have sat back and just watched what's going on and need to be more actively participating and voicing how we feel about this.
Right.
There
Good.
needs to be this separation between crime and sin
Yeah.
too,
If
right?
I,
Because sins are subjective to
right.
whatever you believe they are. But
Mhm.
we need to talk about the difference between crime and sin.
Well, yeah,
So,
if I could, I'd just like to offer that about a year ago, we did a whole month about the danger of Christian nationalism. And so very outstanding articles in that.
oh, great.
That's searchable. So
Okay.
if you go to the magazine, you can search out Christian nationalism and it'll take you there.
Okay. I will definitely do that. Thank you. We'll post a link here also.
Okay.
Um, Tell me a little bit about the audience, your chosen audience for Three Fifths Magazine.
Okay. First of all, let me, if I could, read a quote from Isabel Wilkerson.
I love her.
Oh, yes. It says, Isabel Wilkerson says in her outstanding book entitled Caste is the insidious and therefore powerful because it is not hatred, it is not necessarily personal, it is the worn grooves of comforting routines and unthinking expectations, patterns of a social order that have been in place for so long that it looks like the natural order of things. Now,
The Warren Grooves.
Yes, the Warren groups. The same can be said for systemic racism. And
Yes.
that's our main tenet that we, our objective that we do at Three Fifths Magazine is we take on and we want to dismantle this systemic racism. And a lot of times when people have controversial opinions about, well, I don't know if there's anything such as systemic racism. I don't believe in that and whatever, because they do take it personal.
Right.
And as we understand from the very beginning, as we talked about the Three-Fifths Compromise, and there's been so many other compromises and things set up in this country, rules, laws, unwritten rules, and the whole gambit. But there is a system, and it's not a personal thing. Nobody here is coming against any certain person. And if people, there's the terms we hear about privilege and oppressed, and a lot of times those become outdated. Certain people have advantages, and other people have disadvantages. And those things have kind of been set up over the years. And what we have to understand is people get so used to the system. We used to have a characterization that we used to do when we used to teach diversity classes, me and my wife, and where we pull out, we talk about, well, yeah, if you want to have some, if I want to get my wife some new pantyhose, I go to the store, okay, and my wife is a darker complected African-American woman. I said, well, if I come back with a new pantyhose, will these work? And they said, no, that's the wrong color. And so that's just a humorous example of how this is kind of baked into us.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the normal, and then there's the exotic or the other, or all these kind of terms. And so we go into our world, and people have these grooves that they fall into. That's why when someone goes into an elevator with a Caucasian woman, they're African American, and she clutches her purse, is she thinking out literally, oh, this is a dangerous African American person, I better protect? No, it's just a natural response. Hmm. Why is that? It's because, as Isabel so eloquently mentioned, those grooves.
Those Warren grooves.
Yes, yes.
She's brilliant, and I would encourage anybody who hasn't read Cast to get the book, read it, go to the library, buy it, where you can get it on Amazon easily. I actually have had 2 copies and gave one away. And if you're not ready for that, seek her out on individual podcasts. She has, in particular, the one with Jon Stewart. I think it's called The Problem with Jon Stewart, and it is a brilliant episode where he talks with her for an hour or so about Cast. And thank you for mentioning that. She is really powerful in that she addresses it matter-of-factly, pulling so much emotion out of it, and just talks about it. These are the facts. This is why it is, and states it in a way that allows us to maybe remove our own emotion and the personal, like you address the personal nature of it, right? And it's hard. It's hard for somebody to look internally or to look back at their own personal history and acknowledge a place of privilege or a place of entitlement, and to say, yes, I was privileged, because people don't want to take blame. They don't want to be responsible. They don't want to feel like they could have done something different, right? Mm-hmm. It's really important to recognize truth and not worry about that stuff. It's what you do now moving forward matters more than your lack of knowledge, what you falsely learned, right? Mm-hmm. And I've talked so much about unlearning. Unlearn those false things that you thought you knew. Unlearn them. It's okay. Be curious. Find out.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit more about. Let's go back to the magazine, and I want to address. It's an online magazine, correct?
Yes, it's online.
And how can a new viewer of the magazine, how can they benefit the most from? What's the best way to get involved and start is there a subscription? How do you come into the site? Three fifths, is it, and tell me the URL, Three Fifths Magazine
It's called, it's www dot three fifths spelled out dot online.
.online. Great.
Mhm.
What's the best way to jump into it and start learning?
And excuse me. And before we go into that, I wanted to finish up as far as who we're catering to.
Yes, please do.
One thing, Three Fifths is built on with a diverse group of contributors that are to reach out to those who want to take part, want to find out more information from a historical perspective, from a just in knowing and learning and finding out. And everyone's not a marcher in the streets. Everyone's not a sign holder, but you can be active. There's a saying that says knowledge is power. Gaining knowledge, learning how to speak truth to power in your family, in the workplace, at the office, at church, at whatever venue that you come in contact with. It's important that people are given the tools to communicate these truths in their little part, wherever that is, whatever that is, dismantle systemic racism. We at Three Fifths Magazine provide a platform through a thoughtful conversation involving societal reckoning, ethnic, ethnic, historical societal. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Societal reckoning, equality, or racial equity, historical perspective, and spiritual insight. And we use those as kind of that platform to involve people. And going on to your next question, how can people get involved? How can they find out? Go to the website, read. And we have an excellent search engine, as I mentioned before.
Yes.
You can look up keywords. You can look up different subject matter concerning racial justice. And we've been around for 3 years, and all of our articles are available to search. So you can find out these things, research and look and learn. And that is so important.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I am so excited to have this as another resource to add to my, I don't like the word arsenal, but to my store yard where I can go and learn and unlearn and
Yes.
keep moving forward. Launched in 2021, post pandemic. You talked in the beginning about where we were in this world, in this country. Have you been able to reach the goals that you set out to, or what are some future goals for Three Fifths?
Well, I just want to say thank you to our faithful readers. We have absolutely reached our projections.
Amazing.
And so we've got a lot of work to do. There's still much more. We definitely want to introduce ourselves in a more intricate, deeper way into these communities with face-to-face communication, with social tables, with seminars, and with workshops, and et cetera. It's the gamut. We want to get in touch with people so people can not only read about Three Fifths and read the information in Three Fifths, but be able to have interaction, personal interaction, and face-to-face contact with Three Fifths Magazine. Because we are a 501(c) nonprofit faith-based organization, and we have our magazine, and we are active and want to be more than just something to read and then okay, that's good, I read that, what does that mean? We want to be a change agent, something that people can grasp onto and hold onto and know that this is a vehicle to make things better.
I want to talk about something, and this may be, and I may flub it, so I apologize if I flub this. But as a white person, I understand and know what I have received. That, and we don't want to. I know you want to get away from privilege, but I recognize that I come from a place of privilege, and one of the key things that helped me recognize that was I have a friend who's African American said to me, when you get pulled over by the police, and I like to speed. I am a speed demon. I love to drive fast.
Oh,
So when you get pulled over, are you ever afraid? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not ever afraid. And he said, that's you need to recognize that is a place of privilege. And this was years ago that he said this to me. And so I've kept that in mind. And
mhm,
as I've gone about my own learning and unlearning, I've bumped into people or come across other people who are trying to teach that are really angry.
mhm.
And I understand that anger. I understand that I'm angry and hurt. I remember having a conversation with my husband maybe 5 years ago and I just sobbed. And he said, why are you crying?" And I said, because of how it is. I'm so hurt and sad and that I didn't recognize it until now, right? And I remember learning about Emmett Till and just being, why didn't I learn about that till I was in my 40s? Right?
Mhm.
Why was that not something that was taught more more vastly? Why did not all Americans, no matter what they looked like, no matter what they believed, no matter where they lived, not know about that incident and
Yes.
that murder, right? So I want to know how do you, Kevin, how do you approach this with the this almost sanctity? I mean, I'm so impressed by how you do it with love. How do you not be angry? I'm sure there have been times when you've been angry because I'm angry, right? I'm angry about this, but I want to be part of this change agency. I
Yes.
want to be a part of that, and I want to be an asset, not a liability to the mission of moving forward, unbuttoning that shirt and buttoning it correctly.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
how have you come to that place where you can do this, that you accept a conversation with me, that you want to talk to, that you want to put yourself in this position to a live conversation? We are having a live conversation. It is not scripted, it is organic. You agreed to speak with me. So, how have you done this?
Well, if I could, without getting too long-winded, but if I just go back to my youth, where my family was the first African American family in a place in suburban Columbus, Ohio, back in the late 60s, very late 60s, early 70s. And my first day of school, went there not knowing what to expect. And I was later to find out that there was a school-wide meeting with all the children in the gymnasium where they talked about we're going to have two black children at our school. And the children, not knowing they're children, all they can do is regurgitate what their parents have fed them throughout the years. They ask questions such as, "Do they have tails?" and things like that. It was amazing. So, so not to make a long story short, when I went to school there for the first year or so, it was not a good thing.
Oh,
It was horrible. I was called names, the racial epithet. I was beaten up, jumped, all kinds of stuff in suburban Columbus, Ohio. A little sleepy Columbus. Nobody would ever expect that, but and that's up north. It wasn't like it was down south. So through that experience, I realized the older I got, and I worked through that, and actually developed some very strong friendships. And I was a graduate of those same schools, with very strong friendships, and I kind of led many different groups of minority and African American, Indian, Asian children, young people that would join that school district as things grew, and they looked to me as an example. And through all that, I say that I could have gone one of two ways. I could have taken that in the direction of hatred and carried that all the days of my life. That would have been a weight and a burden on me that would have affected me while the world goes on. I decided to take that experience and turn it to the positive and say, no, no, that's not the way things are going to be. That's not the end of the sentence. That's not leaving the shirt buttoned wrongly. That's not starting wrong and ending wrong. I'm going to change the trajectory. I'm going to make a change. And so through my understanding of Christianity, my walk with God, and the sentiment and the feeling and the expression of Imago Dei, I turn that negativity into a positive and work to unify people, work to bring people together, work to build the bridge together across the ethnic, racial divide. And that's just been my task and my assignment all the days of my life since those days. And that's why I can come into Three Fifths Magazine. And if anyone were to look at the About page, they can see we have all ethnicities represented. There's a lot of people. The greater are those that be with us than those that are against us.
I love that. I thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It is so important to, uh, my grandma used to say, you catch more flies with honey, than the other things that you can, so I don't want any flies around, but I do want, as much love and learning to take place as possible, and to move forward with a clean shirt that's buttoned correctly, that allows us to have that care and concern, to return to the true meaning of being a patriot, right?
Yes.
That true meaning of what it is, which is wanting to help my fellow countrymen, right?
Yes.
That is what a patriot is.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I don't like that word has been co-opted for a different mission. I want us to return to that with love, with honor, with respect, with the recognition that we all want to feel like we belong.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is to extend that, right? Belonging is a feeling that people feel, not what they give.
Yes.
Right? You can't give that to somebody. The only thing that you can give is that love and care and the outward join us.
Yes.
And I love that you have extended that through Three Fifths Magazine. And I will be an avid viewer, reader, and sharer of the information that is there. I cannot thank you enough. I told you that we would only go 35 minutes tops, and we're a little bit over our time now. But I can't thank you enough, Kevin, for joining me. If folks want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
They can reach out either by the Three Fifths Magazine LinkedIn page, send a
Okay.
message, begin to follow, and you can follow there, as well as my personal LinkedIn page, Kevin Robinson. You send me a message. We want you to reach out, seek out, and find out and keep up with what we're doing at Three Fifths Magazine. And once again, we are www.threefifths.online. You can come there and search out, you can find a resting place, especially today with so much attack on people that are involved in with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and so many people that are kind of really facing some heat nowadays. We're a
Yes.
safe place that you can go and you can feel like you're a part of something that is moving forward beyond these times that we're in. And also, one last thing, if you want to subscribe, you can go to the website, www.threefifths.online. Then go to the subscribe page, just enter your email, and you will, on the 8th of every month, receive all the articles in the new month's subscription.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Once a month.
Yes.
Once a month is great, not twice a day. I love once a month. So thank you so much, Kevin. I'm so appreciative of Three Fifths, of your willingness to hop on here with me, unscripted, and share some information and enlightenment. Thank you. I hope you have all success and that things continue to grow and develop with Three Fifths.
And thank you so much, Ray. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks, everyone.